museum has opened its doors with 2 new exhibitions, Echoes of Yosemite and Arreglos Intuitivos, intuitive arrangements. Today's artist talk, Gustavo Ramos Rivera, is the first event of our spring exhibition cycle. Art is communication. Communication fosters collaboration, and collaboration builds community. Gustavo Ramos Rivera and Kathryn Kain are 2 artists, very active in the Bay Area arts community, who collaborate and share ideas across media. The works discussed today give voice and vision to the shared creative process. I want to encourage you to go to our website to learn about additional events and programs that will be occurring throughout the months ahead. And with that, I want to welcome our esteemed guests and turn it back over to the Royer curator to do the official introduction. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome once again. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Britt Royer. I'm the curator here at St. Mary's College Museum of Art, and I'm delighted to welcome you today for our artist talk with our featured fall artist, Gustavo Ramos Rivera. And Gustavo will be in conversation with collaborator and printmaker Kathryn Kain. Gustavo's work opens today in the exhibition Arreglos Intuitivos, Intuitive Arrangements, which will be on view through December 14th, 2025. This exhibition showcases over 25 works created over the past 20 years, spanning various media, including painting, collage, drawing, and printmaking. Today's conversation will be focused more directly on printmaking. Kathryn and Gustavo created several works together that are in view in the exhibition. This conversation will dive into how Gustavo and Kathryn collaborate as artists and printmakers. We will then open up the conversation for a Q&A for the last 20 minutes of the program. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our speakers. Gustavo Ramos Rivera was born in Ciudad Acuna, Mexico, and is a celebrated abstract artist who works in collage, painting, drawing, and etching. Rivera is known for his richly layered canvases that merge luminous color fields with universal symbols, creating a visual language that feels both ancient and contemporary. In addition to painting, Ramos Rivera works with skilled printmakers in San Francisco, Mexico, and Switzerland, creating unique monoprints and book portfolio prints. Over the course of his career, Rivera has exhibited widely in the United States, Mexico, Switzerland, and Chile, and his work is represented in numerous public and private collections, including the Fine Arts Museum of San Francisco, the San Jose Museum of Art, and the Crocker Art Museum in Sacramento. Kathryn Kain was born in Toledo, Ohio, and studied art at the Cleveland Art Institute, Toledo University, and Arizona State, before settling in San Francisco Bay Area. She completed a BFA with an emphasis on printmaking at San Jose State University. After further study at Cal State Hayward, she earned her MFA in printmaking in the San Francisco Art Institute. Kain established her own press, Lou Rose Adler. The second page I gave you. Thank you. An independent fine art press focusing on monoprints and monotypes. Kain's studio is located in San Francisco at Hunters Point Shipyard. With her strong ties to the Bay Area art community, Ms. Kain also works as a printmaker and an instructor. She has been on a visiting faculty at Stanford University and the San Francisco Art Institute and Santa Clara University, San Jose State University, Bell Clinton College, and Dominican University. So please join me in welcoming Kathryn and Gustavo.
we're talking to each other here. Gustavo, Brett's questions. The first one, it says, you work in many media. We know this. You work in sculpture, printmaking, really anything. He'll be dying to work in that. And she says including collage. Collage kind of permeates everything. Her question is, how is working with prints different than your other mediums? And how is it similar?
Well, first of all, I want to welcome all of you and thank you for being here. And I will answer Kathryn's question. The mediums are all different, I feel. Printing is something, construction is something else, collage is something else, and painting is something else. But they all relate in a way that reflects the expression of the author. And I find it very stimulating and very happy to work with Kathryn for the last 30 years or so. Smith Anderson edition in Palo Alto, and other places that we have been invited in Europe and the Southwest, Amsterdam.
Right.
And so we complement each other very well because she knows my palette. Like when I go to the shop, Kathryn has already set up a set of colors that we like, and then so we start on a plexiglass and paper, and I intervene the paper before we put the first layer of ink, and that gives me a start point to follow what is there already in the paper. So it's a dialogue that happens with the forms, the shapes, the lines, the colors, and so intuitively, with help of Kathryn, what should I do next? Will it work? Will it not work? And with her assurance, we both move the press, she moves the press, and what comes out, sometimes it's satisfactory, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's frustrating. But since we've been working for a long time, so we know how to fix a press that is not working.
How do you feel that working with printmakers, myself and other printmakers, affects you when you go back into your studio to do your painting?
It is very positive because the paper is not an expensive material, so you go and doodle on the paper. The canvas is a little bit more intimidating because it's all white, but throughout the years I have confidence in myself, and I start just with any color that is there, and then I start the dialogue with the canvas. And it takes a few days to finish the canvas to my satisfaction. But at the end, I turn it around in the wall of the studio. So when I come back the next day, I turn around and I can see what is good, what works, what doesn't work. So I keep on building on the painting. But it's different from the paper. It gives you more confidence once you go on the paper. You know, you feel more like free to work on the canvas.
You know, I've been a master printmaker in monotype, mostly for Smith Anderson editions, and I got right out of graduate school. I only started printmaking here in California. Before that, I had been in school for painting, drawing, sculpture, but I somehow fell in love with printmaking. Believe me, it was not a logical decision. And very early on, even before I went to San Jose State, I did a class at De Anza College And at that time I saw an exhibit at SF MoMA with monotypes. And I really didn't know what a monotype was until then. I had very little experience in printmaking. It was not being taught in class. This was my original printmaking course. And these monotypes by Nathan Oliveira, some of you may be familiar with him. He's a very esteemed Bay Area artist. He has passed, but he has influenced many people. And I immediately wanted to make monotypes. I was also very influenced by Japanese woodblocks, which many of you probably have seen, the ukiyo-e woodblocks. It's a very rich tradition that coming out of Japan that have become quite collectible. But you know, they influenced many of the artists during the Impressionist time because they weren't seen as valuable in Japan, but they made their way into Europe when you know, Gauguin and Marie Cassatt and some of these artists were working, and they were very influenced by the Japanese style. So those things were my very early influences. So I made that my focus to study printmaking, neglecting painting and sculpture because I was literally in love with it. And I got 2 degrees in printmaking, but I also went on to study with the Japanese master printmaker and artist Kenjiro Nanao. He taught at Cal State Hayward when it used to be called that. Now it's East Bay, I think, Cal State East Bay. And I did 3 years there, just exclusively working with instructors, mostly Kenji, and learning lithography. And he was a trained lithographer, which is an extremely difficult art. So, you know, I didn't know what I was getting into as I got out of graduate school at the San Francisco Art Institute, which is now defunct, but it was really the most fertile, amazing place. Gustavo has lived down the street from that institute for many years. And I got a job in a printmaking studio, you know. It's just an unknown art. People don't really know what printmaking is. It's a mix of technology and fine art. And at the time, in the 80s, this was a hotbed of printmaking going on in the San Francisco Bay Area. There's so many presses, and they're fine art publishers where they invite an artist to work. And then the artist makes the art, and the technicians have the skills to deal with the presses, the inks, etc., to produce a collaborative work of art. So when you work that way, it's the artist's work, but they can't do that work without the printmaker. So I originally worked at a studio called Ernest de Soto, Ernest de Soto Workshop, and I was straight out of grad school, and this was the most amazing shop. It was all stone lithography. He was working with masters from Mexico, Latin American masters, and they would draw on a slab of limestone. To get into the process of lithography is a little off our topic, but it's quite subtle and beautiful, and you can draw like a piece of paper, which is unlike other printmaking mediums, like etching or woodblock, where you're carving or scratching. So Ernest de Soto made many prints, and he worked with Gustavo. Some of Gustavo's first prints were made with Ernest de Soto, and I don't know if those are in the show, but this is where we met. And then I went on to work for Smith Anderson Editions. And at Smith Anderson, Paula Kirkeby, the owner and director, fell in love with what's known as the monotype. So most print mediums are, you know, they are a multiple. You create a multiple original from what's known as a matrix. The matrix would be the lithostone, the etching plate, or whatever, something that can be inked and you get another copy. And it's not a print like it comes out of a machine like an inkjet. It's a print that's a handmade object, but it does have the ability to be a multiple. So at Smith Anderson, you know, I knew about this place and I wanted to work there as a young person, and the opportunity arose. It was total fate. And Paula Kirkeby, the owner, wanted to buck that trend, which was actually a movement in the Bay Area. There was a huge print renaissance going on in the Bay Area at this time. And the renaissance was, we don't want to make just straight multiples. We want to make variations on a theme. So Paula Kirkby devoted her press to the monotype, which is, she liked the fact that the artist makes one at a time. It's literally a painting on a sheet of, it could be metal, it could be plastic, it could be wood. But it's a one-of-a-kind print. There's no multiple. So that's the difference between a monotype and, let's say, an etching or a lithograph. And I worked there. I was not immediately the master printer there. I worked with some other printmakers, but you know, she would invite an artist, and I would be me and the artist for 1 week, and their wish is my command. And I'm running the press, I'm preparing the paper, I'm preparing the ink, and the idea is I'm invisible just to help them express their idea. About 3 years into that, or 2 years into that, she said, I want you to work a project with Gustavo Rivera. And I was very excited because I knew his work. And I had seen his work and I had met him. And I was just so thrilled. So that was our meeting, our first time we did a project. We had a meeting before the project. And he said to me, we're going to have some clean borders, right? Which indicates he didn't know if he could trust me. Because, you know, of course, if you're a printmaker, you have to have the clean borders. It's about the object, a piece of paper. So that's my answer to, you know, I've worked with so many artists. I hate to talk too much. You know, artists from all over the world, very important artists, and it's different every time. You know, you want to make them comfortable. You don't want to impose your opinion, but you do have to make a suggestion for now and then. And every artist is a different setup. You know, what they might need as far as a plate, a paper, a size. Sometimes we discuss that on the first day. Often we discuss in advance, so I have time to prepare. So I think I answered like every question so far. But what types of prints are featured in this exhibition? And what do you create together? We have created intaglio, that's not a lithograph. We have created many, many monotypes. And I think what is in the exhibition is mostly monotypes. Gustavo, can you talk about how you make a monotype and how the collage fits into the monotype? Like this one, for example, we made 2 years ago in my studio in San Francisco. That's the image size. There's a border outside it, so it's a 30 by 40 sheet of paper.
No, I love the measurements of these papers because it gives me the opportunity to extend my hand and do all the roller. And so all of this is spontaneous. I have the white paper and then I doodle with whatever is around, be it Prismacolors, Sumi ink, or crayons, to start with a background for something else, and then I use the collage as part of a shape, a form, to make the whole thing, the whole piece work. And I really love these measurements because I paint also like big, you know, like 7 by 7, 6 by 6, and all the big formats. And painting is an expression that comes from inside of you, of memory, of everyday things that you see, influenced by other people, certain parts. For example, I believe that there's families of artists that communicate throughout the years. For example, I love the work of Joan Miró, Picasso, Tamayo, Frida, and many other people, George O'Keeffe. So many influences are part of an expression. And I didn't have an art education. I didn't go to school to learn how to. I mostly learned by visiting museums, reading books, talking with painter friends that they already paint, they already like grown-up painters. And since I was a kid, I was encouraged by my family. And instead of like forbidding me to paint on the walls, they encouraged me, said, oh, that's a beautiful piece. Make another one. That was my father. And my mother too, bravo, bravo. Well, I make another one. So my house was full of murals of trains, planes, done with cheap enamel, 3 pesos paint from the local hardware store. Right? But the smell, it addicts you. You get addicted to the smell of turpentine and enamel. And then my dad would paint a table or a chair, and I would be like smelling the turpentine. And to this day, I think I'm addicted. And it's wonderful to be able to express yourself in any medium, be it a sculpture or singing or making sculptures. It's a way of cleaning yourself of many things in the world that don't work with you. So I empty my head of everything, and I paint. And it's hard to keep the things out of your head, no? And concentrate exactly on what you are doing. And at the end, you will be surprised because you knew, but you didn't know what the outcome will be. And it's a dialogue of lines, shapes, forms, until you see that it works. And it's not so easy to know when a piece of work is done until days later you realize that, well, that's not that bad, and that's not that bad. And then you have it out and you go edit again until you finish. And I work on 3 or 4 pieces at a time. Because one gives me the answer for the other one. See, I get stuck in the detail or something, but I have the answer of the other canvas. So I kind of work on 3 or 4 pieces at a time. And I'm so glad that this, that I'm doing what I'm doing because it makes me happy. And what I do, I hope it makes people happy too because I'm a happy person. I will not happy as all of us. Then something happens and something happens. But we are born like pure. And then education of this kind of the other one is good, but also it's a double sword. Sword with double, like
Double-edged sword.
yeah, double-edged. And so one has to get rid of what one knows to be able to paint. It's not like singing, we all can sing. We are born to sing, to jump, to draw. But then we suppress those feelings, and but you have a tendency to be like, oh, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an architect, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be something else. But at the beginning, we all have that capacity to draw, to sing, to dance, to do many things that we eventually forget. But we still can run and jump and dance. We're only here for a little while.
Okay, back to the questions. What are some of the challenges and rewarding components to working with other artists through this medium? I just want to say, Gustavo's talking about when he paints in a studio, he's alone. He paints on a lot of things at once. But when we're in a studio situation making prints, I have to be the one that's very focused, and so does he, because we have a limited time, a limited setup, and it's usually one at a time. Like this piece, for example, I've already set up, I set up a mat of the same size paper, and I hand him the bare paper with that mat to protect the edges for the white borders, and he does first scribbling, pasting of paper, whatever he wants. He has a whole lineup of crayons, pencils, collage paper. I have glue ready. It's quite complex, actually. And I know the system, but it's not as simple as a lot of people when they're making monotypes, because he's done it for so long. So the first things that happen is he glues a few pieces of paper, he scribbles on them, he might do some brushwork with ink, and then he gives me that paper, and first then we trace kind of a map of what he's done first. And so that map's on the back of a plastic sheet that is the size of the image. And I take the paper, I have to keep it damp or get it damp, trying not to let any of the water media run. And he has the tracing and Sharpie on the back of the plastic, and then we start inking the plate. So I have to make sure that the paper stays damp just right. I have to make sure the pressure's set up just right. And then I'm helping him apply the ink. He applies most of the ink himself. We use a lot of little rollers and then sometimes brushes. Then we have to clean areas out, because if we roll that red area, for example, then we'll have to clean areas where the collage shows through. It's very precise. It looks free, but there's a lot of technique, and he's very good at it. So I'm on my toes the whole time we're working, and it's nerve-wracking. And I remember this particular piece, one of the collage papers, you know, if something isn't right, the crayon sticks to the plate, the fibers pull up, and I'm sweating bullets, and he's like, no problem, no problem. And then it all works out in the end, because, you know, we've done this for so many years. And like I said, every artist is different, but when I'm finished working with an artist, you know, first of all, I'm learning all their secrets. I know the secrets of many artists and how they make their work, and it's not really right for me to use those. I guard his secrets. I'm telling it now because we're going to talk, but I don't tell this to other people. I teach, you know, printmaking to tons of students. I work with tons of artists, and I can't, in good conscience, reveal some of his techniques. Maybe I hint, but I can't reveal his techniques because it's his thing, and I have to respect that. But I have to say that when I'm done working with Gustavo and I go to do my own work, which is primarily works on paper, although I'm doing painting as well. I have done sculpture. I'm doing less three-dimensional, but I work a lot on paper. I like to draw, and that's really complementary in how I got into printmaking. After working with Gustavo, or maybe some other very inspired artists, you know, I'm very inspired myself, because I'm channeling like his colors and his inspiration into my work. So it's very wonderful for me to have a long relationship with an artist. There's other artists I've worked with for a long time that really no one as long as him. I mean, since literally 1991, we've been working at least once or twice a year. And it's just so much fun. And you know, we're holding ourselves to high standards. We want to make things that are different, but we are still always using his techniques. It's not like I'm putting my ideas to him, but I will say, I liked it when you did this color, or I liked it when you did that color. And he's so open to that. He's so open to any suggestion. He's like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. But only if he feels like it. So it's really, it's just a wonderful thing for me. And being an artist on your own is great, but I have to say, as a printmaker, you get so much working with other artists and with the collaborative process. It's so fascinating and so interesting that, you know, I wouldn't want to give it up. When I was younger, I thought, I'm just doing this for the money. I really want to be an artist, but no, I'm past that. It's in my blood, and I love making prints with artists, but only the best artists. But I do work with all kinds of artists out of my studio, you know, at every level. And I love teaching to students as well. Let's see. The monotypes and monoprints in the studio, I don't know if you want to show another slide. These we just made, literally in the summer. That was in July. And these are very special because I was given a stack of handmade vintage Mexican paper. And it's funny because the paper came from the Ernest de Soto workshop where we first met, where he first did lithographs and he first did monotypes. And they worked with this paper. And the woman that used to work in that studio, which is long closed, Ernest de Soto's dead, called me up and said, I want to give you some paper. And she brought over this huge stash of, it's like really thick, it's all different tones, it has crazy textures in it. You can't maybe see it in the photos, but some of it had all different rough textures. I've really never seen paper like this before. So when he came this summer, I said, we're going to use this paper. And I thought, what the hell is he going to do with this blue-green piece of paper? But it was so perfect. He loved it so much. So these images have no border. It's what we call a bleed image. The one on the right, it's actually much more vibrant in real life, but when it's projected, it loses a little of color. But we pasted those 2 sheets of paper, the corners and the center one, and then we rolled the orange color ink, and that had to go back in the press like 2 or 3 times because we didn't get the intensity of orange. It's much oranger than you see it there. And then this is another one. It's a different color paper. I don't know if that's one of the gray papers or the blue papers. I feel like it was kind of blue. And you can see there's some collage in the lower corner, the black. That's a piece of paper that has been printed in advance that he has a whole collection of where we'll print linoleum blocks or I'll just roll out ink and print it on Japanese paper, which then becomes collage for the print. So we're printing prints for the print. And some is just various colored papers that I collect, that he collects. Sometimes he draws on them. And he's also using some metallic inks on this. Those yellow brush strokes in the upper corner are metallic, and you can see the crayon work. And all these pieces, the white line is he's scratching through the ink with a carpenter's pencil, the dull end of a carpenter's pencil. And that's one of his characteristic marks. And it's like a crazy compositional directional mark. So after we have everything inked and ready to drop the paper, he takes that carpenter's pencil and goes and makes these lines. And it's amazing what they do. It's just, I've seen it for so many years. And I don't even take that, but many artists use a scratching tool in monotype because you have a sheet of ink, just rolled ink, and you can scratch into it. And it's very sensitive. Fingerprints, anything you make with a brush is going to show very beautifully in the monotype. So when he's finished with his prints, they have to get redampened and then pressed for days under weight between blotters. And then they're dry and they're flat because the paper won't dry flat without being dried under weight. And then I give them back to him and he does more work on them. So then he takes more colored pencils or inks, or he's especially fond of the fluorescents. And he'll go in with a fluorescent and he'll actually color in all those white lines that he scratched to add another little accent to the print. So it's quite a many-stage and complicated procedure, even though monoprint is known as being the simplest type of print. But he also has lovely etchings, lithographs that he's made, and those are all multiples. But each time he makes a multiple, he also adds a unique element of collage, which not every artist does. Often you just would create a plate, an etching plate, or a lithograph and just print that. But with Gustavo, there's always a unique element that is included, which means it creates what we would call a varied edition. So if you have an etching plate, but each time there's a slightly different color or a little piece of collage, but all the plates, it all comes from the same plate, that's called a varied edition, or in French, like most terms, edition variée. So I've become very fond of that process myself, and I also teach that process to my students. And they're like, you mean I have to make everyone different? But they like it when they do it. So, and this was a big movement, like I said, in the 80s and the 90s with printmakers, is creating an edition variée. And it was really not done that often historically, but more and more it has become a standard thing to do, and more printmakers are doing it. So, but he was doing it all along. Who does what in the process? How do you prepare for a collaboration? I think I've answered those questions. You know, with him, I'm like, what are we going to do? He might say, I want to make some big prints. So I make a lot of suggestions with him. Other artists, they might not know what they're going to do, and there's always a warm-up. It's ideal to work for 3 or 4 days because with any artist, getting into the medium, getting the things set up, we always, like the first few prints are kind of like, we're just warming up. We haven't hit our groove. But by the 3rd day, you usually have a nice rhythm, a routine, and you're producing some beautiful works. And it's very exciting to pull those works off the press and see what you've done with an artist. So, you know, the only artist I'm working with lately is Gustavo and another artist, Zhang Changbin, who is big time doing installations and huge paintings. He has work at LA County Museum right now. Fantastic artist, and it's so fun for me because he's challenging me and he's learning from me because he had never done monotypes before, and I'm learning from him because he has a very different aesthetic. But I'm mostly teaching right now, teaching students various techniques at Santa Clara University in Stanford coming up. I think we can open it up to questions. Do you have something else you'd like to say? I talk too much.
No, but I can answer any question that anybody would like to ask. Yes.
Take a mic.
Have there been developments in ink or paint itself in the course of your career that have influenced your painting or printmaking? From a material science point of view, have there been changes in ink or paint in your life's career?
You know, I think one is repeating oneself every time. You know, you paint the same painting every time with a small variations. Or there comes a time when you change and do something else, but am I answering your question? Am I?
Well, partially, but I think you answered one down.
Gustavo, he's asking about like new types of paint that you would use, and I would say in printmaking, you know, the thing that has been developed in the last decade or decade and a half has been water-based inks, which is great, especially in silkscreen. But in the processes we use, we're mostly still very traditional, oil-based. But I think one thing that has influenced Gustavo is, like I said, the fluorescent paints and the metallic paints. There's so many more of those than there used to be. But I think printmaking itself, I think the best studios are still using methods and techniques that are very old and primarily oil-based pigments. But there are plenty of new things in printmaking as far as digital. The ability to create a non-toxic digital etching plate, non-toxic litho plates. But, you know, I have to say, as an old school person, there's nothing like the traditional techniques.
No, I've been using the little pieces of little strokes of fluorescent color, but I did it up with dyes and other things so it wouldn't fade so soon because it fades. But I reinforce it with acrylic or some other so it can last longer. And because I like bright colors and I like a lot of because I'm used to seeing bright colors where I was born in Mexico. These colors are everywhere. You go to the marketplace and you see the fruits and it's all colors. The festivals, like now, everybody's crazy about nationalism, you know, and independence, and blah, blah, blah. So we have all these colors all over the place. Green, white, and red. All over the states, all over the place. And everybody celebrates. And there are towns, whole towns that there's a lot of crafts people and artists. Like if you go to Oaxaca, for example, And like everybody does something with their hands. It's very interesting. I was there not too long ago, and because I went to visit friends, because artist friends, because they called me because I have a collection of prints and paintings that I have accumulated throughout my life. And we are working in a museum in my town. My town is a small little town, 150 miles west of San Antonio, on the border. So I'm used to both cultures. The same songs that you were listening here, we were listening in Mexico. And so if you talk to me about the music of the 50s, I know them all. And all the songs of all those people that were singing. So I have this amount of artwork that I want to donate to the people. And I'm just walking in, I just walked into a wonderful artist, John Wong, who is in our collection, and many other people from the Bay Area, you name it, Mary, Wiley, all the people that work. I have something of them that I have exchanged, that I have bought, that they have given me. So I will give it away. This is a project that is being dear to me because some towns don't have a museum. In my town, we don't have a museum. I said, what? So I've been trying to do this for a long, long time. And the politicians, as everywhere else, they are not too bright. We all know. No? We have the same corruption in Mexico as you have here now. It's all rotten. We all know it. So, I don't ask for them. And on the contrary, I throw stones at them every day. Because they polluted my creek when I was a kid that I used to swim in the creek. They polluted. All completely polluted. I'm totally angry at all these politicians. And so they need something to counter all this nonsense that they've been doing. So we're building this beautiful building full of art for the people, for the children, for the families. And it's going very well. So I'm going to visit you and tell you this.
Any more questions?
I naturally have many questions. Many questions. One has to do with abstraction and the freedom that it allows you.
Yes.
And you spoke of how you basically filter out everything from around in the world. And so I'd be really interested in how you're selecting when you are in fact pulling from sources, whether it's your plaza or it's a space, a view, a vista, and how you deal with space, particularly because you change and shift in scale from working on paper to these huge.
In Jan's work, I see a little bit of social commentary, right? You comment on the social issues of the day. In our case, that we do abstract work, there's also in the back all this knowledge about the situation in the world, and it's there in the paintings, whether it's abstract or it's more obvious, like in other people's faces. That there's a whole history of social work. Let's say, for example, Picasso's Guernicas, all the Mexican muralists that were commenting on the revolution, and etc., etc. So it's very important to comment on the world around us. And in my case, I see beauty still. I see beauty everywhere. Instead of concentrating on the negative, bad parts of the world, I prefer to concentrate in happy things, in things that make us human, something like that. You have a question, sir? Anybody has a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Actually, a good number of my students in my modern art class have come. Some of them have left. But, and for Kathryn, we actually covered ukiyo-e today. Talked about various styles, and we talked about woodblock prints in the class today. So what a coincidence. Okay, so my question actually has to do with the fact that, and this is, my students are writing a report about the artist talk, so I'm asking you this, so, to help them. You talked quite a great deal about the technique, the process. But I similar to the last question, I would like you to talk about how your work has been framed in the museum's webpage, which is the question of intuition, okay? And we talked about intuition as this driving force behind the work itself. So, first of all, could you define what you mean by intuition? Is it an automatic process of allowing things that would actually be expressed through you? I mean, your tools actually work ahead of you? How do you actually frame and you allow things, or you keep things out? So just a little bit about the intuition as this driving force and what it means in your work.
Well, can you talk about, like, when you choose your imagery, and he's asking about intuition?
Oh, okay.
No, just
Oh. No, as I said before, you start painting. In my case, with any color that I have there, I start the painting, and then there's, once you touch the painting, then there's, in my case, then there's, it suggests me what will be next. It'll be a line, it'll be a color. So it's many decisions to make in the process. Many small decisions for the artwork to make it work. And we're not always successful, but sometimes you hit into something that is alive. And you say, oh, this holds to improve.
I feel also that Gustavo's been working intuitively for so many years. He has this vocabulary of shapes. And, not anyone can do this. It looks simple sometimes, but he is very bold and has a very direct interaction with these shapes and directions. But then when he's titling the paintings, also things come in that are from his daily life. It's like translating the view out his windows, or things that he does every day in his studio, to see the clouds out the windows or the buildings out the windows. And somehow those are creeping into the paintings in a non-specific way. That's the way I see his work from knowing him for so many years. Because they're all in there, but nothing specific, like I'm going to make an abstraction of my... No.
What do you think you said?
Well, I'm just saying that you have a vocabulary of abstract shapes and the way you interact with the shapes and the color in the rectangle or the square, whatever it might be. We say it's intuitive, but it's a built-up, very strong vocabulary, compositionally, formally, with color, shape, texture, line, to direct the eye. And so intuitive, it's such kind of a loosey-goosey word, and I think it's a much deeper practice that he has, but it appears to us very abstract.
Well, abstract is like being concrete, in other words. It's like something that is, I don't even know how to explain it.
I know.
Because if you explain too much what you do, you are out of the painting, I can just pinpoint stuff, that how it happens, etc. But to describe, to dissect the work, you destroy it in a way.
But there's repeating shapes and ideas, the way the lines connect, certain areas of texture or painted texture, There's often many squares, little blocks of squares. In the early work, there was a lot more circles. And now it's getting very gestural. There's a lot of lines, very calligraphic. I've been working with him for so many years, working with him and seeing his paintings. That's my interpretation. I think it is very hard to put into words. What you're leaving out, you're not trying to be representational, but figures appear, or abstractions that seem like figures, things that seem like a landscape appear.
Yeah, if you look hard in the painting, you can make figures out of the abstraction. And sometimes a painting will suggest you a title for the painting of the hidden images that are in the canvas. So how to take a painting, so I have that. So I buy poets, put my poets and talk, we have a glass of wine, and I pick out a painting, and is this it? No, no. Is it? No. Maybe this will suit the painting, this title, as an entrance to the painting. And so I'm an incurable romantic. So I have all this kind of corny, not so corny titles sometimes, but they don't run into words. It's like when I read all the titles, I say, well, this is a poem of something. So there's, you say, squares in painting, circles in paintings, lines in painting, grids in painting. Because when you say that, I was thinking Mondrian, squares. The other one is tapis, textures, boldness. Miro, Picasso used to say, Joan has been around with short pants all this time. Meaning that he hasn't grown up. Or his paintings are so innocent and beautiful that you just like, it's a child drawing. He didn't lose his childhood. People that lose his childhood are lost. Because those memories make you very happy. All of us. And then we had a lot of pleasure, like doodling with the crayons and chomping and singing, and it's all within us, and that's what we train. We don't preach, we learn. The preach are for the preachers. But we paint, and people somehow, when one is painting, you have a feeling, and then all around you, you affect in mysterious ways. When people see the painting, they feel something similar to what I was trying to do. And if I get a party and get all the people that have my work in their walls, they will get along perfectly well. How is that? I don't know. But it happens.
Any more questions? Okay.
You want to question? You?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a very new artist, and
You paint.
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple months.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Very good.
And I'm wondering, like, how can I include other, like, mediums in my art? Like, what mediums are just really fun for you to play around with?
Well, I use both. For example, I use acrylic sometimes to outline something. When it's like salt with acrylic a little bit, then I get to go with the oil. Or sometimes I just leave the acrylic to say like it. And just put a varnish, and it looks like oil. But you want to start with acrylics, which is easy. They dry very quick. You can continue, and you can cover. Oil is more difficult, it's more slippery, and it takes a long time to dry. So we need to work with several pieces because it takes time.
That's wonderful. Thank you all for coming in. Quick note though, we do have our opening celebration tomorrow.